Hello, football lovers. Welcome to another exciting week of football. It's the last Monday of the month of October. October was very exciting, ranging from the London Derby, where Arsenal was playing Chelsea, and that match ended in a draw. We also had the Manchester Derby, with Manchester United losing at home to Manchester City. We also saw the El Clasico, where Barcelona lost at home to Real Madrid. Jude Bellingham playing a huge role in that very game, scoring both goals that gave the Galacticos the win away to Barcelona. My name is Akon Bright, your football AI, and this is Football Intel. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Today we'll be looking at results and the tables. Also, we're looking at Chelsea next fixture, Bellingham's contributions at the El Clasico, the Manchester Derby, and also Nketiah, an underrated striker in the English Premier League. But today, I will not be doing this alone. With me in the studio is Mr. Chooks. Nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, nice to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How was your weekend?
It was great, but Chelsea.
An eventful weekend.
It was eventful though. Thank God for the Manchester Derby and of course the El Clasico.
Yeah.
Massive.
It kept football lovers busy.
I'm telling you, at the edge of our seats.
All right, you too can also be a part of this show. Do well to comment on the comment section. Like, click, share and follow us on all our social media handle and drop your comments also. Now, let's go into the business of the day. Let's look at the results from the weekend. An exciting one. Looking at the Chelsea-Brentford game, to the Arsenal-Sheffield, Bournemouth against Burnley, and Newcastle was held to a draw by Wolves. What's your take on that? But first, let's look at the Chelsea game in general. Chelsea at home to Brentford. After 3 wins and a draw against Arsenal, we thought that they were growing momentum coming into this one at home to Brentford, but we saw something else from the game entirely. So what's your take on the Chelsea game?
Well, like I said, I'm a diehard Chelsea fan, and it was a very disappointing result for myself, and I believe Chelsea fans worldwide. It's just like Brentford, off that light, that spark that Chelsea were about to have, they just came and quenched it. Wow. It was a devastating loss. And in fact, what even pained me was towards the last stages of the game when what's his name? Sanchez actually came out to, knock the ball from the corner and all the things that happened. Well, I don't so much blame him for that, but I feel Brentford, they gave us a run for our money. They were all over the place and they proved that they are in this Premier League and that they mean business. So I think with such a result that came out, Chelsea as a team, we still need to put ourselves together. Honestly speaking, we still need to put ourselves together. We have not clicked the way we're supposed to click, and it's a challenge for us. Okay,
looking at the Chelsea Brentford game, after the match, Pochettino said his team lacks quality in terms of finishing. That was after the game, looking at the chances that Chelsea created, but we're not able to finish it. And Mbeumo going in for being one of the best. He was the best player of the match for the Brentford side. What do you have to say about the Chelsea attack? Do you think they are being hit by the injuries that they have, the lacks of Nkunku not being available and the rest? So what's your take on the Chelsea attack? Do you think they need to strengthen that position come January transfer?
Obviously, we need to strengthen it ASAP because Chelsea, like Pochettino rightly said, the Chelsea front line lacked the precision. I mean, look at some expensive misses Jackson made in that match. And if you are taking advantage of it, it would have been a different scoreline. So obviously, come January, we need to make signings. And we need to sign strikers and forwards that have what we call precision. That's just it.
All right. Moving away from that game, let's look at the Arsenal-Sheffield game. A good win for Arsenal at home to Sheffield. 5-goal thrashing. We had Nketiah, the man of the match, also had his first hat-trick for the Arsenal jersey in the Premier League. What do you have to say about that very one for the young striker?
Yes, it's a very nice one for Nketiah. Very great way to solidify his name. And but I think that is made possible because when you have a good squad and you have a good backup, I mean, the goals just have to come naturally. I mean, just take a look at the players that are surrounded by Nketiah and the Arsenal team. It's just like what Haaland is going through in Man City. Look at those people surrounded by him. Coming down to Arsenal, look at the people surrounding Nketiah. So why wouldn't he bang in the goals?
Well, a good one for the Arsenal team. Talking about hat-tricks, we saw one of England's prolific striker at the Bundesliga, talking about Harry Kane doing it again for Bayern Munich. That game, we saw a whole lot of red cards coming into the game, with Kimmich having the first red card of the game at, I think that was the 6th minute, if I'm not mistaken, before Damsgaard had 2 red cards. The first half was goalless, but come second half, we saw that there were a lot of goals coming in. Hat-trick for Harry Kane. What do you have to say for Harry Kane?
It's massive. You know, Harry Kane has always been a player who always has the eye for goals. And I'm not surprised. You know, going over to Bundesliga and banging in the goals, I'm not surprised. I mean, we all know his resume and his stats here in the Premier League. So if you watch that match, their opponents, they had a very, in fact, for them to even get 2 red cards in the match was just like an open way ticket. So, I mean, you would have expected that from Harry Kane and the rest of the other players. I mean, getting 2 red cards against a team like Bayern Munich with short attacking force. I wish it was the kind of, attacking force Chelsea has. Obviously, it's not the case.
So looking at the Bayern team, what do you have to say about their manager, Thomas Tuchel? It's a good start for him in the Bundesliga, but he's second at the table currently. So what would you say about his tactics going into Bayern Munich?
I think Thomas Tuchel has been really amazing. Too unfortunate for Chelsea that we lost him the way we did. Obviously, if not for 1 or 2 things that played out, Tuchel would still be Chelsea's coach today. But that aside, I feel he's doing an amazing work in the team, being able to incorporate the players together and instill the confidence in them, and also the ability to work together as a team. So despite their position right now in the Bundesliga, I can vouch for them that they will finish top of the league in Bundesliga.
Do you think that's going to happen?
Yes,
we see Xabi Alonso's side, Bayer Leverkusen, doing extremely well with our Nigerian prolific striker, Boniface, hitting the goal for them. Well, let's see how that pan out for those in the Bundesliga. Now, the heat of the weekend, the El Clasico on Saturday. Ooh. Real Madrid, 2 goals with Barcelona 1. What's your take on the El Clasico in general?
Wow, the El Clasico, you and I know what El Clasico has always been all about, right from the days of Messi and Ronaldo, when it was just between these guys and all that. El Clasico is just like, I would liken it to, apart from being a football fan, I'm a wrestling fan, okay? And one of the biggest events in WWE is the WrestleMania. So I liken El Clasico as WrestleMania. It was an amazing, when the game started, when Gundogan scored the early goal, I was like, everywhere was silent and everything was going well for Barcelona. All of a sudden, the guy called Jude Bellingham, man.
The strike from the long range strike,
man,
that caught guy, everybody off guard.
Listen. When Jude Bellingham scored the equalizer, I was just watching the match. Where I was just like, this guy is an awesome kid. Definitely. Before I could recover from that, banged in the second goal and gave Madrid the win. It was an amazing moment.
Yeah, an amazing win for Real Madrid at the weekend. But we also found out that during the beginning of the game and the build-up and everything, we saw that both teams were losing some key players. But when the game started, we saw that Barcelona had high dominance, ball possession, keeping the ball and controlling the gameplay. But the second half, where the man of the moment, Modric, came into the game, changed everything about the match. What do you say about the experience that Modric brings into the Madrid midfield?
Yes, obviously, it's very good for a team to have not just young players, but having the players with experience. Modric over the years he has cemented his name in Real Madrid history. And when that match started and there was no Modric, like I was asking Modric, what was Ancelotti thinking? What
was Ancelotti's game plan?
Like what was this man thinking to in a whole Clasico, you're not putting in Modric? But all of a sudden, Ancelotti, he kind of made, I think he came into that match with a game plan.
Yeah.
So I felt he brought in Modric when it was time.
Yeah, we saw those clinical changes, bringing Camavinga into the second half.
Exactly.
And moving. Now, Camavinga was not even playing the left back just like that. He was drifting into the midfield, which was a good one, giving Madrid an edge in terms of numbers in the midfield, allowing them to attack and also defend. So it's a good game for Real Madrid coming into that one. Now let's look at the Manchester derby. The Manchester derby. It was a good game from both teams.
No, how can you say it was a good game? No, don't say that. You can't say it was a good game.
You could say it was a good game for some of the Manchester United players like Onana. He had great saves, but he couldn't stop all of them. For him, he would say yes, he tried his best, but his best wasn't good enough due to some defense and midfield errors that we know. But coming into the Manchester derby, we saw that both teams had good gains from their good build up, good momentum from their previous game coming into this one. They lost some of their players and they are back. I was hoping that Ten Hag was going to start Regulion, but we didn't see him come into the game. But he came in the second half, also tried to give Manchester United an edge in terms of attacking. Now, looking at the game, we knew from the beginning that the midfield was going to be one battle that should have decided the game, which it did, coming from the Manchester City side. What did you think that Ten Hag should have done better than what he did so far?
Obviously, like you said, it's just all about the battle of the midfield. And Manchester City, I mean, if you watch that game, they just outclassed and outplayed Manchester United. Their midfield game was on par. You see Rodri and I think Bernardo Silva, right? Yeah. All of them just doing their thing in that place. I think what Ten Hag should have done was to have, incorporated the same method. You get you get my point. Now you are coming against a team like Manchester City and you understand their style of play. So it's more or less like using their weapon against them. That's what Ten Hag should have done in this match. And maybe if you look at the kind of players like the likes of Rashford and the rest and some of those guys in the midfield, like Amrabat tried, but his best was not good. His best was not good enough.
Was nowhere near.
In fact, it was nothing to write home about.
Nowhere near the likes of Rodri.
I'm telling you. So I felt Ten Hag should have used their weapon against them. And more so, when you look at some of the things these Manchester United players were playing, sometimes I do feel they don't even realize the badge they play for. These guys need, would I say motivation or what would I say?
Talking about motivation, do you feel it's because of the whole trauma that is going on within the team at the moment, the club under the verge of being sold to another owner? Do you think that was what was affecting the team in general, the style of play, the playing for the badge, the pride and all of that? Do you think, because this player would be like, we don't know who is coming over to take over this club, would all the coaching staff be swept out? Would there be a kind of change in the way we do things and the philosophy and all of that? Do you think that was one of the main reasons that is affecting Manchester United at this point in time?
I don't think so. I don't think so. As far as I'm concerned, that should not even be a major problem now. Like the saying goes, when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. So I don't see that as a challenge. I don't even see that as an issue why it will affect them. Because starting from the beginning of the season, Manchester United have been inconsistent. So they have to take care of, like a man whose house is on fire does not chase rats. You understand? So that is not even, I don't feel that is an issue.
That is not a problem.
That is not a problem for them at the moment. What those guys need is to understand the club they play for and the badge. And I feel that Ten Hag should instill some kind of this. Like, for example, I don't understand what a player like Rashford has on Ten Hag, that Ten Hag cannot just drop this guy for him to learn lessons. Now, if you come to Chelsea team, remember Cucurella was on the bench for some time. And when he was not incorporated into the team, you see his performance. Though our last month, but you have been seeing Cucurella's performances.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, the bench he sat in gave him that sense. So if you don't bench a player like Rashford, he knows that whatever be the case, he will always be starting matches. That kind of a player can never have sense. You get it?
All right.
So that's it.
Moving away from the Manchester United team, let's talk about Manchester City. A good win for Pep Guardiola and his boys. Let's look at some key players that made this win come to be. Talking of Rodri, a very important part, played a very important role in that game. And also Haaland, the big man up front, not neglecting Foden with his work. So what do you have to say about these 4 key players? Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Foden, and Haaland.
Now, these guys, like I said, Manchester City is a team that I think other teams who aspire to be great should pluck a leaf from them. Now, if you look at the Manchester City team, Guardiola has been able to incorporate all of them together, and they all have that understanding. Like most of the times, you like when I watched their yesterday's game, I could see some communications between this set of players you mentioned. Yes, even sometime when there was a dead ball situation, I can see some. And this is a team that when you see the way they play, their style of play, knocking the ball around, and Manchester City is a team that always want to have the ball. They always want to be in possession of the ball. And these things are possible when these players understand themselves. And looking at Rodri, and apart from understanding themselves, they all know the various parts they have to play in their team. Rodri knows his part. Bernardo Silva knows his part. Foden knows his part. And of course, Haaland knows his part. So they don't try to encroach in each other. They all work together as a team. That is why you see them performing to the success of their team. And Manchester City, they will continue this way. I see them continue this way for years to come. I'm telling you.
All right, without wasting much of our time, we'll go for a short break. And when we're back, we look at the table standing at the moment and some key issues in both in the Premier League and also La Liga. All right, welcome back to the show. We'll go straight to the league standing of 4 major leagues in Europe. Starting from the Premier League, we look at Sheffield, Burnley, and Luton Town at the bottom of the EPL, with Sheffield having just 1 point, Burnley having 4 points, Luton Town having just 5 points. We also have the likes of Chelsea sitting on 11th position of the table, where Brentford is ahead of them. We also have Manchester United at the 8th position of the table. Looking at the top of the table, we have Aston Villa being 5th. We have Liverpool 4th, Manchester City being in 3rd position. We also have Arsenal in 2nd place, with Tottenham Hotspur leading the table at the moment. But now it's more like a continuous routine where one thing is up there, then another thing comes down, and there's a swift change in all of that. But let's leave the top of the table. Let's focus on Manchester United and Chelsea. These two things, it doesn't look like they're getting up there anytime soon. This is 10 games gone. Chelsea having just 12 points, with Manchester United having just 15 points at the moment. Now let's look at the Chelsea side. Currently, your last game against Brentford, you lost. What's the next features we have coming into this new month for Chelsea?
If you notice, my face changed.
Because Chelsea still needs to face the likes of Newcastle, Manchester City. They still have who else? They are still playing Manchester United. Chelsea is also playing. Looking at these teams coming into their next 5 games, do you see Chelsea surviving this one? At least coming out with, let's just say, out of 5 games, 15 points. How many points do you see Chelsea coming out with?
I had a quick look at our next fixtures, and I was downcasted. Because, bro, I really need to know the person who is behind this and why, if he has a personal vendetta against Chelsea. Now, I looked at, after Brentford, our next game. Listen, I think our next game is against, what's their name?
Newcastle.
We have Newcastle. Then after Newcastle,
we have Man City.
We have Manchester City. After Manchester City, we have, I think, is it Brighton?
Yeah, Brighton. I think
we have Brighton.
I think you play Brighton before you play Man U.
Yes, we play Brighton. Now, actually, the 5th fixture is going to be Manchester United. So we have Manchester United, we have Brighton, we have Newcastle, we have Man City, and I've forgotten the other team we have to play. Now, looking at these teams you have mentioned, Tottenham. Tottenham. I just remembered Tottenham. Okay, look at it now simultaneously. Tottenham,
City,
Man City, Newcastle, Brighton, and Manchester United. 5 of these fixtures is going to give Chelsea 15 points.
These are good sides that are currently...
bro.
All of these teams are ahead of Chelsea at the moment. All of these things you just mentioned are ahead of Chelsea at the moment. So do you see Chelsea coming out of this one with at least 6 to 7 points? What do you have to say? Because definitely we know Chelsea is going to lose against Manchester City. It's a London derby again.
Bro, sorry to interrupt you. With this fixture, who Chelsea won't win?
Hope. There is hope.
I don't know who is behind these fixtures, but I feel that person has personal vendetta against Chelsea, honestly speaking. Because these teams are at their peak. Forget about the loss of Manchester United to Man City. Anytime Chelsea and Manchester United play highest, I two play, ends a draw. So now, can we get a point with Newcastle? Even Tottenham, we are playing them at home. I think, how many away games do we have? I think it's 2. The rest of the other ones, we are playing them at home. Okay, we are playing Man City away. Okay, I think, yes, Chelsea will be at home to Man City. So, I mean, you look at Man City, look at Tottenham, look at Newcastle, bro. Now, God hand with it. That's all I can say. But for you to ask me how many points Chelsea can come out with, honestly, I don't know. Let's see how it pans out.
All right, going back to the Manchester derby, a quick one, looking at the good saves from Andre Onana and also the likes of Maguire coming into that game. No much error from him, like the fans would have been ranting at the end of the match. But we also saw one player that did well, which is Højlund, prior to the penalty that was considered. Now, let's move away from the match itself. Let's look at the penalty that was considered by Højlund. What do you think? Is it a clear penalty for you, with your own opinion? Do you think the VAR is doing their job, or do you think there should be like another decision should have been taken for the penalty?
For me, I'm very disappointed at the inconsistency of the VAR. You get it? The inconsistency of the VAR is pissing me off because we have had some matches with such similar situations and nothing was done. Penalty was not awarded. VAR didn't even call it. You understand? But in this Manchester derby, we had such kind of call. So I don't, despite that, okay, even if you minus the penalty, Manchester City will still have 1-2-0. Okay, I'm not after that. But I think the VAR, there needs to be consistency in whoever is handling that thing. You understand? It's just like me being in a similar situation and I was not awarded a penalty. And then another match happened, something similar happened, and they gave a penalty. That's inconsistency. You get? So that's my own take on that. The VAR needs to be consistent in such. Not that the next match we will see a similar situation and they will not award it, wave it aside, and VAR won't call it. So that's just my own take on that.
Now, talking about strikers, let's look at the young ones. A very prolific striker that had a hat-trick at the weekend, that's Nketiah for Arsenal. Now, there have been rumors of saying that he doesn't look like a striker that could fit into any big team in the Premier League, but we saw him. He has been doing great for Arsenal, coming into the game, played like close to 8 matches in the last 10 games for Arsenal, and he's also scoring goal. A quick comparison between Eddie Nketiah and Rasmus Højlund. What do you have to say about these two young guys and their performance currently in the Premier League?
Okay, talking about Nketiah and Højlund, I feel like it all boils down to what I said earlier. Their performances this season is based on the team they are repping, the team they play for.
Do you think Nketiah has been underrated as a striker?
Yes, Nketiah is an underrated striker, if you ask me. Because if you look at one thing I've seen him, most of the matches he's always brought in to prove himself. At least he has been in one way or the other doing it. It's just that Nketiah he's not a first team player. All right, he's not in the first 11. He always comes off, or sometimes they start him whenever his use has injury or some other things. But I feel Nketiah is underrated. He's actually good. He's a good player.
And he has a lot
to offer in the coming, and he's still young. So having this kind of, I think I like the way Arteta is using him, actually. I'm impressed with how Arteta is trying, at least once in a while, incorporating him. And with time, I believe once he starts maturing and improving, of course, he'll be the player to beat. Yeah.
Now, talking about another young player, now we are moving to the La Liga, which is Jude Bellingham, another exciting kid, 20 years of age.
Wow.
He's the top goal scorer in La Liga, having 10 goals at the moment.
Wow.
He has scored more. The goal currently he has scored this season, currently, is more than Zinedine Zidane could actually score in a particular season.
Wow.
What do you have to say about this bright young star coming out of Real Madrid? Now, we saw the game against Barcelona. It felt like he was nowhere to be found, but he proved himself. What do you have to say about Jude Bellingham?
One thing that has impressed me about this young kid is his consistency. I mean, coming into the Spanish La Liga and then making not just a statement, but a huge statement. I mean, his first El Clasico. We are talking about his first El Clasico. He did not just score the equalizer, but gave Real Madrid the lead that won the match. So I'm really impressed with this kid. Now, if you check his processes growing up as a player, from Bellingham to where do we call it? The club he came for, Dortmund, Borussia Dortmund, and now coming over to Madrid. I mean, this guy, the process, he has undergone a process. That's what I see in this young lad. 20 years of it, he has undergone a process and he's speaking for himself.
He has a lot.
And he has a lot to offer, a whole lot. La Liga is here to hear his voice.
All right, talking about La Liga, let's look at the table. Currently, okay. Real Madrid on top with Girona, another team that is doing really well in second position. Atletico Madrid playing with just 10 games in the third position with 3 points behind Girona, and Barcelona 24 points with 11 games. At the bottom of the table, we have Almeria, Granada, and Celta Vigo. Now, let's look at the Serie A, where we have Inter at the top of the table with 25 points, Juventus being second, Milan and Napoli third and fourth consecutively, where we have Salernitana in the 20th position, Cagliari and Udinese at the bottom of the table. Now let's look at the Bundesliga, where we have Bayern Leverkusen with 25 points at the top of the table, Bayern Munich in second place, Stuttgart in third, and Borussia Dortmund in fourth place, where we have FC Cologne and Mainz at the bottom of the table. Now let's talk about another player that has been making wave in Europe, and that is Kylian Mbappe. We know we are hopeful that next season he is going to go to Real Madrid. But let's look at currently their last game against Brest. He scored 2 goals that gave them the win. After a 2-2 draw, they came back and they won 3-2. What do you have to say about Kylian Mbappe currently at PSG?
Yeah, though in that match, he actually missed a penalty too. He would have scored a hat-trick. He missed a penalty in that match. And I think Kylian Mbappe is already a player that I think he has already cemented his name all right now. And he's a player that is wanted all over the world. There is no team who would not like to have a player like Mbappe in their squad. I think he's a phenomenal player. He's an amazing kid. And to me, I see him as a future Ballon d'Or winner. So
now, finally, talking about Ballon d'Or, we are hoping for the results today. Messi, Haaland, and Mbappe. What's your pick?
Well, my pick is Messi.
Yeah, definitely has to be Messi. He has done a whole lot.
A whole lot. The God of football.
God of football. All right, thank you guys for joining us today. Till we meet again, I remain your host, Akon Bright, your football AI. Remember, you also can be a part of this show. Drop your comment. We need to hear your thoughts on every discussion and conversation that we have had today. Thank you, Mr. Chooks, for being with us in the studio today.
Thank you, bro.
All right, till next time, goodbye.